el arco iris y además se restauró el fresco también y podemos ver que en el centro de la imagen hay un anillo de figuras y podemos ver que está George Washington con una bata lavanda, de color lavanda claro, y ahí podemos ver el arco iris. Todas las figuras que vemos en la apoteosis también aparecen en el complejo del Capitolio, en una pared, etcétera. Y entonces vemos que lo que tenemos ahí está enfatizado en el edificio. Son figuras alegóricas. Se representan conceptos, la libertad y también a gente. Aquí tenemos otro fresco, una pintura sobre escayola y tenemos una narrativa, Frieze of American History, en torno a la rotonda y el artista fue Constantino Brumidi. En 1878 vemos que hay como alguien que se arrodilla, ahí lo vemos, sí, sí, Constantino Brumidi es el artista del Capitolio y estuvo aquí pintando este fresco en un andamio en la rotonda. Y vemos que el fresco a la derecha se avanza de forma cronológica y ahora aquí podemos ver aquí como con una caja o hay una caja en el suelo y este es un momento de transición. Vemos que es un momento en el que hay otro artista que toma el relevo, Filippo Constantini. Aquí hay una persona aquí en el medio, no sé si lo ven, y pueden ver que tiene que el zapato izquierdo es como diferente que el derecho. Las tres personas indígenas que ven ahí, y ahí es donde Filippo toma el relevo y pinta cosas que Brumidi, pues en fin, había empezado, pero las cosas no van siguiendo el plan. Si vinieran aquí a la rotonda, pues tendríamos que verdaderamente afilar la vista para poder ver lo que pasa. Pueden ver que hay un señor que se sujeta la capa, William Penn, y Constantino Brumidi estaba ahí en el andamio y estaba trabajando en el pie de William Penn. Y entonces ahí como que se resbala y no se hizo daño, Brumida. Había gente en la rotonda que le rescataron y pues en fin se cayó al suelo y volvió al andamio. Entonces podemos ver a William Penn en el centro que aguanta ahí esa capa y podemos ver que hay un zapato que tiene una hebilla y el otro no. El segundo artista, Filippo, pues siguió y él lo que hizo fue escribir el nombre, pero casi que no se ve de ese caballero. Podemos ver aquí la colonización de Nueva Inglaterra. Sí, estoy muy contenta de que el reverendo mencionara que esta es una tierra de nativos americanos, entonces podemos ver cómo trabajan aquí en el Capitolio. Y en este fresco aparecen bastante. Aquí tenemos el coronel William Oglethorpe. Podemos ver cómo están con los nativos americanos. Y entonces aquí tenemos un frieze en inglés, que es como una banda escultural que tenemos, que la estamos viendo. Y aquí esto se pintó dentro de la rotonda. Y como se ha mencionado, Trump Lloyd. A ver, y ahí tenemos una lucecita que está brillando justo en este momento en el fresco. Y yo quisiera enfatizar esto, que es plano, que se ha pintado sobre escayola. Sé que parece blanco y negro, pero es como de un marrón oscuro para crear ese efecto que vemos. Justo aquí, abajo, a nivel de suelo, no diría a escala humana, sino a nivel de suelo de la rotonda, podemos ver distintos cuadros. John Bellingham.
Featuring Mr. Columbus. The painting size
Y
is
aquí
12
tenemos
by 18.
a Colón.
To give you an idea about why you should come and visit the Capitol, visit Congress.
Y tienen que visitar el Capitolio. ¿Por qué? Pues pueden ver aquí la puerta del este, podemos ver cómo entra la luz. Y esta es la puerta que les estamos enseñando. Y entonces tenemos cuadros que datan de muchos años. Podríamos estar verdaderamente aquí hasta la próxima toma de posesión
That seems like it's-
contándoles todas estas curiosidades y toda esta información. Hemos hablado, hemos empezado con George Washington en Nueva York, con las tomas de posesión, James Monroe, en el Capitolio de ladrillo, que era un edificio que estaba al otro lado de la calle, ya no está, del tamaño del Tribunal Supremo, y aquí tenemos una vista desde el lado oeste. Podemos ver las banderas. En el lado oeste lo que estamos viendo, la parte superior, es el West Front. El lado oeste siempre ha estado ahí en la edificación desde 1890, y luego el arquitecto que diseñó Fred Planton, lo que le rodea. Esta plataforma de toma de posesión que ustedes han visto es enorme. Necesitamos 177 toneladas de arena para rellenar el frente, para ponerla, claro. Has mencionado la plataforma. Es muy importante. Aquí podemos ver en el interior del Capitolio, podemos ver las puertas de la Cámara del Senado. Se trata, como digo, de un ángulo único. Si estuvieran aquí en persona con nosotros, les pediríamos que no sacaran fotos. Y así es lo que se nos pide a nosotros, que la gente no saque fotos de las puertas del Senado. Verdaderamente, este ángulo, pues, muy poca gente lo puede ver, y lo están viendo ustedes gracias a nuestra transmisión hoy. Y podemos ver las baldosas lejos, y podemos ver también el cuadro de la primera mujer elegida en el Senado de Arkansas. Tenemos también las tradiciones del Senado y los distintos mandatos. Y también hay que mencionar que tenemos un cuadro del estado de Maine, sí, de un artista del estado de Maine. Sí, claro, estamos hablando como hay estatuas que hemos visto, que se las han dado los estados. Y hay también distintas obras de arte que se han encargado. Y hay que ser muy específicos al respecto. Hemos hablado de los presidentes, pero el vicepresidente, la vicepresidenta es presidenta del Senado. Y esto es algo sumamente importante.
Y la colección del vicepresidente está al lado en el edificio, y a medida que pasan los años está más robusta y está en más lugares. Y desde este ángulo está el busto que se le hizo al vicepresidente Cheney.
El National
Statuary Hall, que es la Cámara del Congreso, la Cámara de Representantes anterior. Y también aquí en la Plaza del Este, y debajo de esa plaza, donde ven la gente y los carros, es la parte más nueva del complejo del Capitolio, que se abrió en 2008, y ahí es donde vienen cuando nos vienen a visitar, o cuando podían. Me encanta la idea de poder explicar cómo la toma de posesión es más que la juramentación. Todo viene desde antes del 20 de enero. Es un día lleno de eventos, ceremonia tras ceremonia. El discurso de la toma de posesión es un requisito, pero es una tradición. A lo mejor algún día veremos a alguien que decida no hacer ese discurso, no a darlo. Y hemos visto cómo la tecnología ha evolucionado. George Washington era un hombre muy bajito, pero no había televisión. Imagínense al presidente Lincoln en la parte este. Los soldados de Texas alrededor de él. quizás 100 yardas se podía escuchar. Sí, y no había micrófono. Ahora vimos a una cantidad de asistentes que era mucho menos. Y hemos visto cuando con el presidente Monroe se pasó de adentro a afuera y cuánta gente vino a asistir y a ver el evento. Aquí estamos esperando fuera de la sala presidencial, en el lado del Senado, en el Capitolio. Aquí vienen el presidente y la vicepresidenta entrando. Todos aplauden. Aquí están en la sala presidencial. Aquí es difícil tomar fotografías por los espejos inmensos que hay ahí. El espacio no es grande en lo absoluto. Aquí vi la chimenea. Soy tan nerd. Creo que sé cuántas chimeneas hay en el Capitolio. A ver, pregunta para mí. ¿Cuántas chimeneas hay? Te voy a dar 3 opciones. 120, 160, 144. 160, no, 144. Ahora, ¿cuántas había? Eso es otra pregunta. A ver, aquí van a firmar. Señor presidente, le pedimos que firme este documento. Y luego le acompañarán fuera del cuarto. Aquí está la prensa.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready for the signing.
Señoras y señores, nos estamos preparando para la firma. Entonces ahí vemos al presidente Biden para firmar en la sala presidencial. En el Senado es donde está esta sala y tenemos acceso exclusivo para verlo de esta manera. Hay cosas que no podremos ver, pero quedará grabada.
Again, I want to go back. The reason why we have the president's room, George Washington. He said the president
Les digo, el motivo por el cual tenemos una sala en el Capitolio es debido a George Washington. Él quería que lo tuviéramos. Esto es una época distinta, cuando se solapaban los periodos presidenciales y el periodo del Congreso. Uno piensa que la toma de posesión es en enero y el 3 de enero es el Congreso, pero eso es distinto a través de los años, esto cambia. Listo. Este es el primero. Muy bien. Entonces, si no lo reconocen, están los miembros del comité conjunto de la toma de posesión. Está la vicepresidenta Harris. También en la sala presidencial.
Friends, when the president, vice president leaves this room, they're
Queridos
going
amigos,
towards the
cuando
Ohio
el
clock.
presidente y la
Now, the
vice
Well,
al
well, it's interesting. A senator
reloj
from
de Ohio
Senator David Daggett
es un senador
asked
de
a clockmaker
Connecticut.
from Philadelphia, Thomas Wood,
Daggett le
to
pidió
complete
a
it.
un señor
He
de
does in
Filadelfia que
1816,
hiciera
but
el
Ohio came to
reloj
the Union in
y lo
1803.
terminó en
I don't quite get it.
en 1816. Y nadie sabe la respuesta por qué se llama el reloj de Ohio. Está en el pasillo del Senado. Lo verán cuando vayan de camino a la rotonda. Ya aquí están terminando la ceremonia de la firma, entonces en este lado del edificio es una decoración hermosa. Aquí ven las losas, la manera como tienen el brillo es distinto al que era antes. Se hicieron en Inglaterra, hechas a la medida para el pasillo del Capitolio.
You can. How? Visit Congress. Janet, I think the number one
¿Cómo
question
se hace?
that's
Ustedes
asked of
no
us
son los únicos.
How
Ustedes
do I
pueden
visit Congress?
caminar el Congreso, no son los
the
únicos,
question
deben
within the
visitar
top three.
y hacerlo.
And depending on what part of the building you're in, you will likely walk on these
Y
towers.
según el sitio en donde estén del edificio, van a caminar
to the
por
contrary.
aquí. No es algo que sea sagrado. Una de las veces donde van a ver estas losas es en la parte del Senado. Realmente llevamos a la gente ahí cuando hacemos visitas guiadas que decoró Constantino Brunidi, de la persona que estábamos hablando antes. Pero bueno, no he terminado de hablar del reloj de Ohio. El hombre con el sombrero verde. Él tenía una oficina estaba sin ropa y se fue al lugar del Senado. Y lo que dicen es que los espíritus estaban en ese reloj. Antes era ilegal el alcohol. Aquí en el Capitolio hay rumores de compartimientos donde se escondían cosas. Y entonces se crea todo un tipo de mitología. Hay muchos misterios. No sabemos por qué el reloj de Ohio se llama el reloj de Ohio, pero hay muchos cuentos de compartimientos secretos en donde escondían el contrabando durante los tiempos en donde el alcohol estaba prohibido. Esto se ha construido, este edificio, en diferentes piezas o diferentes partes, y cada una ha añadido y ha pasado por todos estos cambios constantes, se ha usado para distintas cosas las salas a través de los años, pero en esta sala, la sala del presidente, tiene ese solo propósito. Es esto lo que están presenciando hoy, un espacio muy pequeño, porque aquí en el Capitolio no hay espacios que se desperdicien, pero este espacio en particular se reserva para este propósito en específico, para que el presidente lo use el día de la toma de posesión. Era cuando en marzo, el 3 de marzo, se vencía el periodo del Congreso. Y entonces, miren, esta es la vista de la rotonda. Yo creo que no se entra a esta sala hasta que sea el discurso del Estado de la Unión. No se usa mucho, a eso es lo que me refiero. Así que qué lindo que puedan ver esto, el presidente Biden y la vicepresidenta Harris, con la ceremonia de la firma. También en esta sala hay ciertos regalos, se llevan a cabo algunas ceremonias. Y entonces aquí en la rotonda, ¿qué es lo que está sucediendo? La gente se está empezando a reunir. Los dignatarios que acabamos de ver en la sala ahora van a ofrecer regalos. Y también este año, como las cosas son un poco distintas, no hay una comida para celebrar la toma de posesión, así que esto se cambiará y habrá esto en la rotonda. La rotonda, las ventanas son inmensas, tienen 96 pies de diámetro. Está la pintura de George Washington glorificado, y si ustedes miran hacia abajo, podrán ver una estatua de George Washington que está con la señora Washington. Pero en verdad mucho de esto no sucedió, solo un diseño que no se llegó a dar. Pero aquí en la rotonda donde vemos equipos de cámaras, se suponía que iba a haber una estatua de George Washington. En el Museo Smithsonian de Historia
applause and things like that, and Ron is alluding to.
You better be 6 years of age and older to visit the Senate. There's such a place called the Children's Room, where my colleagues have put me in timeout many a time there, and it's not far from that camera angle just gave you. Oh, what a view here! We see elements of all four branches, if I'm not mistaken, for review. And again, I mentioned this earlier. I had served in the 82nd Airborne Division for quite some time, and here they're coming out.
Here they go.
They'll be passing by Leader McConnell's office.
I thought it was a Marriott.
Now, once again, folks, you see the Capitol Police Officer in uniform. The gentleman in the brown coat is United States Capitol Police Officer Eugene O. Goodman, who is serving as the acting Deputy Senate Sergeant at Arms for the day. Speaker Pelosi just went by there.
I didn't notice her without.
Cream-colored dress. She took off the turquoise coat we saw her in earlier. Senator Schumer and Blunt going by us there. And so as they've passed us now in this corridor, they're about to pass by McConnell's office.
Look, Janet, notice the floors have changed.
Fabulous view here of what's called the small Senate rotunda. So just off the rotunda, a small area there with the columns. It's actually an air shaft. If you were to look over that railing, you'd see down to the first floor of the Capitol, and it used to distribute light and air in the days before air conditioning and light bulbs and all the stuff that we have now.
Goes the House Sergeant of Arms, Senate Sergeant of Arms.
And our acting Deputy Senate Sergeant of Arms there in the light brown coat, that's Eugene Goodman, U.S. Capitol Police Officer. Folks, you may have seen some photos and video of him recently.
I mentioned the floors. Those are mosaics, which if you visit the Library of Congress, you'll see in abundance. It's the only area that we have mosaics in the Capitol. Look how President Jackson is dominating that room right now. Look at that posture on the right-hand side.
So these statues, again, are from the National Statuary Hall collection. Every state gets to send two. There's VP Harris and Doug Emhoff, her husband, heading into the rotunda. And Dr. Jill Biden and President Biden heading into the rotunda. Surrounded by a phalanx here, including other dignitaries, as we discussed, sergeants at arms.
And remember, this is a scaled back.
Yes, this is a
scaled back operation.
Remember, this is fewer people than we would normally see at inauguration. So another incredible feature of this broadcast is that we have clear views of these folks that aren't too crowded. This is incredible.
I'm blown away.
As we look down in this direction, that's the door of the Senate at the very end of the hall, that wooden door with the rounded top that you see on it there. And again, if you were on tour with us, I would be asking you to please not point your camera at that door, because the United States Capitol Police like to keep that area secure. You can see some Capitol Police officers here flanking this north door into the rotunda. So the president entering the rotunda now.
Oh, look at that beautiful
All right.
painting.
Now, this is a painting selected by the chair of the JSIC.
And the First Lady and the Vice President and the second gentleman. Normally at this time, we have a lunch, and probably no person alive has attended more of those lunches than President Biden has. It's an important moment where it's bipartisan. It's the time to bond between the executive and the legislative branch of the government. We probably don't need as much bonding because we already have that natural bonding with you and the traditions here. By those traditions, usually there's a painting at the front of that event that the chairman picks. This time, not knowing we were going to have an event until what we were going to do about an event until late, I asked Dr. Biden to help pick the painting, and this is the one that she recommended. The painting is landscape with rainbow. Rainbow, always a good sign. It's loaned to us for today from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. The artist, Dr. Robert Sheldon Duncanson, he was the best-known African-American painter in the years surrounding the Civil War. He was based in Cincinnati, encouraged by abolitionists who, among other things, sponsored a trip for him to do some study in Europe. This is a painting that he painted in 1859, and I think maybe it's sort of the classic America as a paradise painting that a lot of painters were doing then. But for him, a black artist painting this painting that's so much like an American utopia on the verge of a war that we would fight over slavery, makes all of that, I think, even more interesting in that while he faced lots of challenges, obviously was optimistic even in 1859 about America. And so Dr. Biden, thanks for helping select this painting, and glad to have all four of you here as we move on to my good friend Senator Klobuchar.
I like the rainbow.
The rainbow is always a good sign. Let's hope so. Go right ahead.
A mixed race artist who created this painting, and it actually depicts essentially one of the last stop on the Underground Railroad.
Door number 2.
Moment on the river.
There we are. Good. Mr. President, First Lady, Madam Vice President, and our very first second gentleman. On behalf of the American people, it is our honor to present these custom-made crystal vases commemorating your historic inauguration. Lennox, which you know is a great company, American company, has handcrafted these gifts for the past 9 presidential inaugurations. It is a good thing I don't have to hand them to you personally. They each weigh with the base 32 pounds. But combined 64. But Jill, I know, is very strong and could take them both. Exactly. But the Lennox company is actually based in Bristol, Pennsylvania, which you know, Mr. President, is a mere 132 miles from Scranton, since we know today all roads lead to Scranton. The team at Lennox has worked for months to capture the spirit of this inauguration and your incoming administration. Mr. President, your vase features the White House, and Vice President Harris's features the U.S. Capitol. The gifts represent the hope and the faith the American people have placed in you to move our country forward. Thank you. Thank you.
As Senator Klobuchar mentioned, the Lennox Company is an American company. It's been around since 1889. President Wilson commissioned china for the White House from them, first set of American-made White House china in 1918. Those lead crystal vases, 17 inches tall, she mentioned they weigh 32 pounds. They're all handmade in Pennsylvania by a craftsman named Peter O'Rourke.
Well, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, while the pandemic has sadly limited our usual hospitality, as others have mentioned, I'm very glad we still carry on some of our favorite inaugural traditions. It's my honor and privilege to help present these flags of our nation that were flown over today's event here at the Capitol. Now, I have to make one point of personal privilege on behalf of the Senate. With all due respect to our distinguished Speaker and our colleagues from the House, I have to note, not only did we just swear in a son and daughter of the Senate to these high offices, but indeed both these former senators skipped the House altogether. The Star-Spangled Banner is our greatest symbol of our endurance of the American idea. It flies over this building on triumphant days and on tragic ones, over all factions and all parties. And today this flag flew over our former colleague's inauguration as the very first female Vice President of the United States. So to our very distinguished former colleague, Madam Vice President, please accept this flag with the highest compliments and congratulations of the United States Senate.
Senator McConnell here presenting flags that have flown over the Capitol today during the 59th inaugural ceremonies. Speaker Pelosi, let's listen.
The distinguished leader of the Senate pointed out that he has hosted this lunch for members of the Senate who have become president and vice president. But I have the privilege of giving the flag to the President of the United States, the flag that was flown when you were sworn in, Mr. President. This flag may it reflect all that is said about your inauguration. America united. May it be a symbol of the hope, the healing, and the just all of the enthusiasm that you have for our country. And as we heard the beautiful national anthem, when we're at the stadium and they say, is our flag still there? Then you say, play ball, right there, play ball. So we're going to get ready to play ball. We're ready to go with the inspiration of our flag flying. But again, on behalf of the House of Representatives, it is my privilege to extend to you the flag that was flown the early moment that you were sworn in as President of the United States. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Biden. Thank you, If we had the lunch, we would have had California wine. Is that not right? Madam Vice President?
That is correct.
Mr. Emhoff, congratulations. With liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
These gifts are presented by the JSIC on the behalf of the American people. We've just seen flags presented that were flown over the Capitol today. And the next gift actually will be photo portraits of the President and Vice President at the moment of their swearing in. And those photos had to be snapped.
Oh, so quickly.
Printed.
Escorted over.
Yeah, it was a real sprint. They have the mats all ready to go, and they just need to snap the photo in the moment and then get them printed and put the frames together.
Right? It's a good picture, too.
The Honorable
President
Kevin
Biden,
McCarthy.
Vice President Harris, Dr. Biden, and Mr. Imhoff, on behalf of the Republicans in Congress, congratulations. Very proud of you both. When President Washington was sworn in as the first president of the United States, only a handful of people saw the ceremony or heard the famous first inaugural address. Today, the inauguration is seen around the nation and indeed around the world. Yet the task facing the nation is no less momentous than it was in Washington's time. I listened to your speech today. You talked among the tension and division. Our task as leaders is to bind this nation's wounds and dedicate ourselves to the values of all Americans share together. With modern technology, just a few minutes ago, it captured in these pictures. History in the making, for all the world to see. This picture should serve as a reminder of that task that we have before us. As a very proud son of California, it is my honor to present to a very proud daughter of California as well. Today, Vice President Harris made history, and all of America should celebrate that. But we should also remember that this is not the end, but just the beginning. As leaders, we are judged not by our words, but by our actions. So let's go forth from here together, accomplish great things for the American people. And every time you look at this photo, remember the beginning of the job we have to do. Congratulations.
Madam Vice President, Mr. Imhoff, Dr. Biden, Mr. President. No, Joe, you're Mr. President. And we are so proud of that. Dr. Biden, he makes you call him Mr. President? Marriage is about to get rocky, I can tell. On behalf of the Joint Congressional Committee on the Inaugural Ceremonies, I too am proud. More than that, I'm ecstatic to present the two of you this picture. A testament to technology and a testament to history. Mr. President, in your speech, you talked about faith. You talked about tribulations, but you talked about victory. The Johnson brothers wrote a great hymn. You know it well, Mr. President. Today, we have a new day. And that hymn came out of faith and out of deep trouble into hope. And they said, facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory's won. That's what your speech was about. And that's why we are so proud and ready to march with you, President Biden. God bless.
President Biden there checking out a photo of him taking the oath of office, just presented.
They're both different, you see?
Dr. King's bust in the background this past Monday, celebration of his holiday.
That bust of Dr. King was commissioned by Congress in 1986. It's been on that spot since 1989 in the rotunda. They're on the east side of the rotunda now. They're going to step through these east doors into the vestibule. See a statue of President Eisenhower there, given to us by the state of Kansas.
Now, friends, you might have been wondering, wait a minute, didn't I see President Clinton, Bush, Obama leave? Yes, to Arlington Cemetery. They're still working. They're placing a wreath at the 2 million unknown soldier. So that's what was going on when they left, and then we had the ceremony here. There's President Dwight Eisenhower. Dwight David Eisenhower changed his name. Representing Kansas, a new memorial to him was dedicated this past, last May.
Yes, the newest memorial on the National Mall is Eisenhower Memorial. And again, these statues, some of the statues are seeing part of this National Statuary Hall collection. Every state gets 2. This collection was started in 1864, and there are 2 from each one of the 50 states. Only 6 states so far have given statues of presidents of the United States. And so those statues are in the rotunda. Looking out of the east front steps now, preparing for the pass in review is going to be coming up soon. You can see the military cordon down both sides of the east front stairs. Figures of war and peace in the niches on either side of the door. We have a little bit of a better view of the figure of peace there. On our left, you can see her. Classical drapery just at the top of the column of military personnel on your left-hand side of the screen.
I mentioned earlier about everyone liking everything old. Look at the old light fixtures. Those were just made to look like that just very recently, within the last 3 to 4 years.
And a lot of elements that are exposed to the elements like that, like light fixtures and these sculptures on the exterior, a lot of times these are facsimiles because the original ones are being held somewhere where they can be preserved for future generations.
We haven't mentioned the architect of the Capitol, Mr. Blanton, who's the architect, but just the staff, what a tremendous job they do. From inside working to outside and all this that they have to do. It's quite a task.
Oh, you can see it's called a busby, that tall furry hat on the military there.
Notice the band.
And everybody's lined up and preparing for the pass and review to be starting pretty soon. We do have a video about that coming up in a little bit.
There's an old trolley stand there.
Oh, we've got some
look at that.
Historic uniforms there. We've got some Revolutionary War style, fife and drum corps. So the coats that they're wearing, you can see those edges turned up. Those are called the facings. Those that you see around the front edge of the coat. Traditionally, musicians will wear a different color. They will wear the inverse uniform of the main body of the military force, and that makes them identifiable because in times past, especially, people will be looking to the musicians for cues about movements, and also it marks them as non-combatants. So we tend to see very unusual and colorful uniforms on our military bands, such as the Marine Band we've seen today, the Fife and Drum Corps that we just saw, and even the Herald Trumpets, U.S. Army Herald Trumpets. Great view of the east front stairs here, waiting for President and Vice President to come out and review the troops.
I think if you're a certain age, you might think of this area, perhaps at a certain age, President Kennedy's inauguration, perhaps, depending on, again, the age, you think of Blackjack Pershing and his line in state. Now, I know what you think, well, maybe perhaps your grandparents can remember their parents and the imagery and the newspaper coverage.
Yeah, lying in state and lying in honor ceremonies that have traditionally happened in the rotunda of the Capitol this past summer. They had to do something a little bit different for Congressman John Lewis, where they actually put his casket kind of right out there in front of that east front door in order for people to file by on the outside. The lying in honor ceremony happened for the first time in 1998. Two Capitol police officers.
Officer J.J. Chestnut and John Gibson.
And in 2005, there was a lying in honor for Rosa Parks. And earlier this year, Justice Ginsburg. There also was a lying in honor for Reverend Billy Graham in years past. And then lying in state is something we tend to associate with presidents, but it's happened for a lot of people, as you mentioned a second ago. General Pershing, unknown soldiers.
Unknown soldiers.
Members of the House, Senate.
Well, who was, Henry Clay.
Yeah, he laid in state in the rotunda.
He's
the first. And then a few years later, when Lincoln was assassinated, that kind of cemented that tradition, that we expect that to happen. And again, speaking of Lincoln, we're looking at the East Front steps where Lincoln was inaugurated. We actually have on display down in the Capitol Visitor Center a table.
It's stunning.
Yeah, so we have the table that Lincoln placed his notes on for his second inaugural address. And it's made from pieces of cast iron from the dome. So the cast iron, 9 million pounds of iron that makes up the dome of the Capitol. Since it's produced in pieces, there are multiples made. And if you've ever made anything using a mold yourself, sometimes they don't all come out perfectly even. So there was a pile of extra pieces and cast-offs. And the workmen working on the Capitol dome during the Civil War went through that pile of cast-offs, put together a balustrade column for the center as a pedestal for the table, some of the decorative elements for the outside to come down and make feet for it, and then they put a smooth top on it, present it to President Lincoln for his inauguration.
I think it's wonderful that American artists and artists from Italy that painted in the Capitol would often use workers in their artwork. The workers here, I love that.
Well, we even know that Constantino Brumidi, who painted that fresco inside the Capitol dome, used some of the iron workers for his models.
Charles Thomas, the superintendent, the foreman.
Particularly for the scene of mechanics that has Vulcan at an anvil and forge, and he needed people to kind of stand in as models to represent the workers in that forge. Remember today's inaugural theme: forging a more perfect union.
Yes.
Determined democracy. Looking at the East Front here, backed out a little bit so that you can see a little bit of the historic Capitol on either side of the stairs.
Friends, if you were to come to Washington and walk around the Capitol, even in the evening, when it's dark, the building will teach you something. You will learn something. You'll pass a member of Congress at night and not know it. And you'll go by 20 yards later and someone will say, wasn't that so-and-so that just walked past? I believe so.
Oh, here they come for the reviewing of troops. Now, I was just going to say, Calvin Coolidge's inauguration, the first one to be broadcast by radio, 1925. And the first one for TV, Truman, 1949. The cables for people to watch it in the Midwest had literally just been installed a few weeks before. Folks on the West Coast still couldn't watch Truman's inauguration.
Well, that'd be nice if we could hear some of the commands. That would be nice, yes.
We can hear the applause.
I know those two words, forward march. I think I've uttered that a time or two. Let's listen and watch. Janet, what if I were to tell you that in one day you would have a new job and change your place of residence in the same day? What would you say to that?
Seems like a lot. And a new ride.
A new car.
And a new car there. I don't know if everyone noticed how thick those doors are when they put the president into that car, but there it is, nicknamed the Beast. Departing from the East Front, they're on their way over to Arlington Cemetery, lay a wreath.
And past two presidents while doing it. William Howard Taft and John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
The vice president getting into the car there with the flags. You know, Chairman Blunt, the JSEC, announcing this 59th inaugural, spoke about this event, commonplace and miraculous, and how this stands as an assurance to all people of our continued, unbroken commitment to continuity, stability, perseverance, and democracy. We have a statue in the Visitor Center of Frederick Douglass.
Yes.
And on the base of it, a quote from one of his addresses: "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." This year's inaugural theme, selected by the JSIC, our determined democracy, forging a more perfect union.
I would say a prolific display of that today.
As we see the vice president and the president loading into the limousines, preparing to depart here on the east front of the Capitol, following the pass and review of troops. Family members headed back as well.
You know, at times, I didn't sense a pandemic or a lot of security. At times, it seemed like, well, this is what I'm used to, but there were times in which I said, oh my.
Well, I think
see the difference.
This 59th inaugural is familiar, and it's also different.
Oh. It's the least attended inaugural physically, but perhaps virtually the most attended, perhaps.
Yes, and we've been thinking about how, as the technology advances in our nation, these events can reach more and more people, right? You know, 1845, people heard about James K. Polk via telegraph getting inaugurated, his speech going out via telegraph. James Buchanan, 1857, the first to be photographed. You can actually see that on the website of our partners, Library of Congress. Photographed, and of course, those inaugurations here on the East Front that we're looking at through our cameras. Then, of course, broadcasts on the radio, broadcasts on the television, and now live streamed out over the internet.
How about President Carter, who's not here to attend, but is seen? It's perhaps better in some cases that for him, given some infirmities, that he's able to witness this from his comfort of his own.
Close up on the license plate there, it said 46. Our 46th president inside that limousine, again nicknamed the Beast. It's very heavily armored. You know, McKinley's was the first inaugural to be filmed with sound recording, 1897. And if you can imagine, we've talked about how in the early years with Washington and Lincoln, people straining to hear the president's remarks, you know, and the sound amplification for the crowd doesn't happen until 1921. But in 1897, people were able to listen to the sound recording.
But yet we hear about the good old days.
Yeah, in 1949, Truman, or the folks on the West Coast couldn't see it because the television cables weren't installed yet. One of those skylights there, that's the top of the Capitol Visitor Center.
It's a gorgeous view.
As we see the vice president's car going by there, sorry, that's president's car going by there. Departing now for Arlington Cemetery. Here on the East Front Plaza, right above the Capitol Visitor Center. That big glass skylight you see there, the water feature around it, black granite from Clovis, California. These flagstones, the pavers that the cars are going over, are from South Dakota and Minnesota. stones selected. There are 17 different states represented in the stones of the Capitol.
I was just guessing among, just as you were talking, I think there's probably 8 to 10, 17.
17 different states represented.
I learned something today.
Absolutely. There's some stone from Kentucky on the borders of the rotunda. Here in the Russell Senate office building, the Kennedy caucus room that we're stationed right outside, there's some black veined marble from New Jersey in there. It took the architects a full year to find it.
A full year.
So throughout the day, we've been able to show you several videos showcasing history and traditions of inaugural ceremonies, and we do have one to close out today as we watch the departure here on the east front of the President and the Vice President. You can see the Cannon House office building in the background there. Of Congress would live, because again, like the technology enabling us to watch and listen to this inauguration, the technology for members to travel has improved dramatically. The Senate has collected oral histories, and the members say the biggest change was jet travel.
You mentioned technology for technology for travel. The House and Senate schedule used to be based upon the growing season. Members would leave for months because they were planters.
Yeah, and the traditional August recess that Congress takes is based around that agricultural calendar, and also the unpredictable Washington, D.C. weather, if you can believe it. Today we've seen clouds, we've seen sunshine, we've seen high winds, we've seen snow flurries. A little bit of all three happening right now, it looks like. As we see the motorcade depart from the east front of the Capitol. Cannon House office building there with the crane at the top right.
Oh, I love it. I can't say enough about the people who have performed admirably with these cameras. It just...
Yeah, so we see the cordon coming down off the east front steps here, and we have one last video to explore history and traditions of inaugurations.
The inaugural ceremonies may be a routine event, but it remains a unique symbol of our constitutional system. Today, as we celebrate the inauguration of the 46th President of the United States, we signal to the rest of the world that we are united as a people behind an enduring republic.
On behalf of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, thank you for joining us today for the 59th inaugural ceremonies. It's been a historic day. We hope to see you all back at the Capitol soon to take a tour with us, or watch a session of Congress, or attend one of the events.
This has been our privilege. Thank you to the camera crew. Thank you to Beth Lemons, the Capitol